it's that time that the season that never ends, recruiting. Recruiting. We're going to bring in Hank South with BamaOnline Recruiting, 247 Sports. Hank, welcome into the Blitz. How you doing, man?
Hey, Martin, doing good. How are you?
Doing great. Doing great. Well, Hank, big weekend this past weekend as it was Junior Day all over the country. Kind of give us a rundown on what happened with the Alabama Crimson Tide in their big Junior Day of recruiting.
Yeah, I think it was a pretty good weekend overall with the entire staff set in place all together. They were able to get a number of top targets on campus. If you've been following along on BamaOnline, we've had so far 4 recruits name Alabama their leader coming out of the weekend. They didn't get a public commitment. That's not a huge shock. It's still pretty early on. A lot of kids like to kind of take visits in the spring and summer and figure it out. But I think they got some good momentum with some guys heading into March. They'll probably get a number of these guys back on campus for a little bit more of one-on-one time here in the next few weeks, especially like they're really top. They're top targets. A lot of the guys on campus last weekend were top targets, but the guys they really want to spend some more time with and get to know a little bit more, I'm sure will be on campus again in the next few weeks. They handed out a number of offers. I think on Saturday there were 11 or 12 offers they put out to some of the guys in attendance. One of the notable offers, I think, is Mohamed Diabate, as far as in-state offers, a 4-star outside linebacker from Auburn. He got an offer on Saturday. Another kind of notable development, and one of the guys that named Alabama their leader on Saturday was 4-star athlete Christian Harris. He's from Baton Rouge. He's listed as an athlete. Alabama likes him as a linebacker, and he came pretty close. He told us that the only thing that kept him from committing was he wanted to talk to his parents. So we'll see what happens with that this week. He's still getting a bunch of offers. I think he's gotten like 7 offers since he left Tuscaloosa. So he might want to kind of enjoy the process a little bit more. But that's one guy I think they might really set themselves up with nicely. And then, of course, probably the biggest visitor on campus was 5-star Georgia commit Nolan Smith, who's the number 5 overall player in the country. He's a weak side defensive end, jack linebacker type player. He was back on campus for the first time since the LSU game. So that makes 2 visits for him in the last few months. And he talked to us after the visit and was pretty high on Alabama as well. So I think a really good weekend overall, a number of top targets in attendance, and I think Bama has picked up some momentum heading into the spring.
Yeah, when you first of all, trying to figure out these guys' names, it was kind of glad that the kid from Georgia is about the only one I can pronounce, but Nolan Smith, a 5-star defensive end, as you mentioned, Pat wanted to ask you about him. Did he officially decommit from Georgia yet? And now, of course, Lapoy and the staff definitely made some ground with him. Did he officially decommit, though?
No, he's still committed to Georgia.
Right.
I think he's actually pretty – I'm not sure how firm he is, but, obviously when you're taking visits to other campuses, to some level you're not as firm. But we'll see what happens with that. He's very high on Alabama. He told us that if he were to decommit from Georgia, Alabama would probably be the team to beat. So that's something to watch. He is really close with, like you said, Taj Lapoy. Mike Loxley recruits him from IMG as well. And he really likes Nick Saban, of course, too. So and another interesting note is he's close with Stephon Wynn, who's the early enrollee defensive lineman for Alabama. And so maybe that plays some sort of role into it. But, yeah, I think he's a big target to watch. And, yeah, Alabama would certainly like to add him to their class.
Yeah. Now, speaking with Hank South, 247 Sports, BamaOnline Recruiting. Hank, this whole new recruiting clock schedule, having guys name you as a leader now, does that hold a whole nother level of excitement in terms of guys coming out of a junior weekend getting to name you? Because now can they not take their official visits at some point in the spring before even as the football season starts, where you could potentially have a guy make official visit, have his official visit out of the way and commit. So being a leader at this point is really important compared to what it used to be.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly everything kind of moved forward. Signing day is only 9 months away, I guess.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and with the official visits in the spring, I think that's another big thing. I'm not sure how many people are going to utilize those.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of kids want to see game day atmospheres a little bit more. I mean, we'll see. This will be the first year, just like the early signing period last fall. I mean, this is going to be the first time we're seeing official visits in the spring. So we've talked to a few guys who are planning to take at least a couple. But, yeah, I mean, having a recruit name you their leader, I mean, it certainly isn't bad. And so I know a lot of fans would prefer a commitment over anything, but
yeah.
I think honestly, you want a kid to know that he's made his decision and is comfortable with it before just jumping on board and committing early. Because I mean, oftentimes kids will commit this far out. Not that it's that far out, but at this point in the recruiting in the cycle, and then have second thoughts. So I think it's better to have a kid be really high on you, and then make sure that was the decision he wants to make, and then announce the commitment. So I think they're in a good spot after this weekend with some of these guys.
When you look at what Alabama's doing, what Coach Saban did with the coaching staff, the turnover, I heard another guy, another 247 analyst, make the following statement. It's always been that you've heard about the excitement of the players about coming to Alabama. Said to the recruits, John Garcia was saying that the recruits are actually talking about how excited the coaches are to be at Alabama, and that's translating to the recruiting trail. Have you heard any of the recruits talking about these new guys? Because it used to be, Tasha Poy and Cristobal and Napier, and then this year you really didn't hear a lot about the coaches that were recruiting. Has Alabama's coaching staff now become kind of the talk about how excited they are about being out there on the road recruiting?
Oh, definitely. I mean, every guy we talked to after junior day mentioned how much they liked the new staff. I think Bama has a number of guys that are ace recruiters in the making. I mean, I've heard great things so far about Pete Golding. I've heard a lot of good things about Carl Scott. Of course, we know Josh Gaddis and Jeff Banks' recruiting ability, and Craig Zuligowski is obviously a very good coach and recruiter in his own right. So, but yeah, I mean, we like I said, we in a few of our interviews, I mean, the guys are saying how they love the new staff, they love the energy, and I think that's going to translate this year in the recruiting class, especially when you're adding them to an already strong group of recruiters with Tasha Poy, Mike Loxley, to add the young, energetic voices to it, to the group. And I mean, and Joe Panunzio too. I mean, people don't realize that he recruited Patrick Surtain and Josh Jobe. So he was honestly the MVP recruiter for Alabama in this past cycle. So
who was that?
Pretty tough.
Who
Joe Panunzio.
Yeah. Yep. And I think him being at the running back position, being that recruiter, the two that he landed is huge, Hank, moving forward in terms of Alabama. I think wants to sign at least one running back. Of course, they had the decommitment. And does Panunzio, because of his South Florida connection and IMG, does that put Alabama in a good position with the 5-star decommit?
Yeah, I don't think they ever were in a bad spot with him.
Right.
I mean, obviously he decommitted, but he also, when he did, he maintained Bama as his leader. He has a long history with Alabama. I think one thing that might be interesting to watch is he was really close with Burton Burns. Not that Burton Burns is leaving the staff; he's just going to be an off-field role. So we'll see how that affects him. But I mean, I think they're still among the top schools. I don't think he has anyone over Alabama. I think they're kind of all. He's considering all of them. He just wanted to enjoy the process a little bit more and take visits and not be tied to a commitment, which you can't blame the kid. I mean, he committed real early for him. He's obviously a top target. Bama will treat him as such, and I think they have the guys in place on staff to get him back into the fold if they were to. I think they're going to get a really talented running back in this class, if not two of them. They're going after some really big time guys, along with Trey. It's not just Trey Sanders. So we'll see going forward. But I would anticipate him to be back on campus soon, and we'll see what happens from there.
And it seems that Alabama, of course, we missed on to me on inside linebackers as a whole this year, and it seems like there's a lot of good inside linebackers in this class. We mentioned one, the kid from Baton Rouge. It is a projected athlete, but linebacker as well. Other than him, Pat was wondering about a couple other inside linebacker targets that has Alabama kind of identified a couple of guys that they're going to go after in that inside linebacker position.
Yeah, I mean, there's actually they've put out a number of offers over the last few weeks, a few to linebackers, but as far as like specifically inside linebackers, I think the names to know right now are Nakobe Dean, who's the nation's number one inside linebacker. He's from Mississippi. I think we're really going to see Alabama try to hit Mississippi hard this cycle like they did in 2016. There's some really talented guys in the state. They already have one commitment from Brandon Turnage, and then they would obviously love to add Nakobe Dean to the fold. Shane Lee is another guy to watch. He's a former teammate of Yabi Anoma out of St. Francis Academy in Baltimore. He's the number 2 inside linebacker in the country. He'll be on campus at some point this spring, and obviously he's going to be a big target. And then a couple other names. Lakia Henry, he's the number 1 JUCO inside linebacker from Dodge City, which is the same school as former commit Jerry Johnson, who ended up not being able to be in Alabama's class after a course issue. He had an online course that wasn't going to be accepted by an SEC program or some weird rule like that, but pretty much kept him from being in the class, and he ended up at Texas and is having a pretty good college career thus far. So we obviously know what Dodge City can produce as far as linebackers, and he's a really good one. He goes by O.C. Ekwonu from Charlotte, North Carolina. He's a big target. And then Vontae Bentley, of course, from Jackson Lynn over in Birmingham. He's another guy to watch. And there's going to be a lot more. And there's some of these outside linebackers that are looked at as inside linebackers too. So there's a lot of good guys out there. Kane Patterson, the guy from Nashville, was on campus over the weekend. He got offered. We talked to him. The interview's up on BamaOnline. And then I could go on and on. But yeah, there's some really talented linebackers. I would anticipate them to continue to offer talented linebackers to get them on campus this summer to work out for the staff. And I think this linebackers class, after not signing as many as they would like in 2018, is going to be pretty strong.
Well, hey, when I look at this, I think I'm going to change my son's name to something that just has a bunch of consonants and a vowel thrown in. I mean, because there's another kid, and I'm not even gonna. Let me see. Ani Izuchukwu.
Ani Izuchukwu.
I got close. How many kids? It's like every time I open up a recruiting site, there's a new kid in Alabama that's gonna be an elite player, and this is yet another kid who's in his second or third year, came from Nigeria to play basketball. He's only 6'4". He's 6'4", about 230 pounds, and it seems like this kid is flying up the charts as well. What have you heard about him in terms of Alabama and him being a good kid? He's not from the state of Alabama. I think he's actually from Nashville, but another good player.
Yeah, we've talked to him a few times. He's a really good kid. He's one of kind of that jack linebacker type. He came from Nigeria a few years ago, and like you said, he wanted to play basketball. Someone said he should play football, so he looked into football. The first time we talked to him, he said he watched videos of Alabama and New England when he heard about football, and he knew they were the best teams, and so that's kind of what he's kind of gone off of. But
that's great.
He's told us that Alabama and Ohio State are his top 2. I think he's ready to he's not ready to make a decision right now, but I think he's going to make a decision before summer at some point. And we'll see. I know he's close with Tosh Lupoi. And I could certainly see him committing early to Alabama if they want to take him. So we'll see. I know he's very high on him. He's visited Alabama, I think, in the short time he's been in the United States, he's been on Alabama's campus 6 or 7 times. So I think that also says something about his interest level. So we'll see. I mean, I read about him the other day saying he could probably be an early commit in the class. So it would not shock me whatsoever if he were to join the class at some point soon.
And by the way, he goes by Anai Izuchukwu or whatever, but his name is actually reversed. Anai is actually his last name. His article I was reading, he just said that he just goes by that, and he listed it in all the sites by that because it was just easier to say Anai. But that's another
Go
great.
Check out, I'll tell you a name. Go check out the number. I'm not even going to try to pronounce it on air, but the number one dual threat quarterback in the country from Connecticut is Tayson. And yeah, you can check out his last name.
I'm telling you, I think that's the key. I'm just gonna get a name that give my son a new name that no one can pronounce. So Smith or Jones probably won't work. But anyway, hey, speaking of Hank South 247 Sports, Hank, just close up this segment with me talking about the state of Alabama. I alluded to it, but it's like every time you turn around. Last year, about 40 or so Division I prospects, which meant probably 8 to 10, Alabama, Auburn level guys at the max. This year, it's like almost double, going to be like double that, in the 70s of D1 guys, which means that there's a lot more guys that the Alabamas and Auburns want. How much emphasis, in comparison, I know this is an opinion, is Alabama going to emphasize this state over what they've had in the past?
I think it'll be a huge emphasis. I mean, especially with the talent they have. I mean, in-state recruiting is often considered the lifeblood of your program. You want to start in your state if you can, and then move out. I think Alabama has that in-state and then like the 5-hour radius or whatever where they want to get be in the mix with any guys within driving distance as well. But yeah, in-state first. And man, it's loaded. I mean, and like you said, yeah, every day it seems like there's another guy popping up with a D1 offer. Really strong offensive line class, obviously with Chris Quick leading the way at offensive tackle, and then Clay Webb and Amari Kite, 2 big targets. We're really strong quarterback class. We know that. That's been talked about a lot. Paul Tyson, Talia Tagovailoa are obviously the 2 big Bama targets at the quarterback position. And then after that, I mean, a number of positions of need out there. Christian Williams, a cornerback, DJ Dale, the defensive tackle from Pinson, and then on and on and on. So I think there's no question this will be a bigger in-state class in 2018. And yeah, this is one of the deepest, most talented in-state classes we've seen in a while. I mean, Jamal Abrams, nobody really knew about him 3 months ago from Jacksonville, and the other inside linebacker, Jacksonville Lynn, just committed to Florida. So he's the number 21 player in the state, and he just committed to Florida. So that kind of tells you something about how strong the class is and how many prospects Ben is going to have to evaluate the spring and bring onto campus this summer for the camp. So it's a good position for them to be in with this level of talent in state.
One last question. I know you do Bama basketball, and I'm going to give me 30-second response to how has the end of the season, have you heard any of it impacting recruiting? Because Avery definitely had some momentum going before the last few weeks.
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I haven't been in basketball mindset as much lately. So we are going to have some more basketball content on BamaOnline this month as far as kind of where they stand, especially with the in-state guys like Trendon Wofford from Mountain Brook. So we'll see if this kind of losing streak has hurt guys. And I mean, Bama has a chance to bounce back too. Obviously with the SEC tournament and finishing out the regular season. So I'm really honestly not too sure about basketball prospects right now. I wish I could give you a better answer.
No, that's okay. I just wanted to let people know we will talk a little basketball. We'll get a catch up on that on next week. The season that it never ends, recruiting. That's what it is. Hank South, one of the best in the business. 247 Sports, BamaOnline Recruiting. Hank, tell our listeners what you got coming up and how they can stay in touch with you.
Yeah, still a lot of junior day content up on the site, BamaOnline.com. We have a free 7-day trial right now. It's going to be spring practice here in a few weeks. So obviously a lot of spring visitors and recruiting never ends. So there's going to be a lot of recruiting content too. So you follow along there, and then I tweet out all my articles at Hank South 247 on Twitter.